It's an international episode today with Quarantine Comics creator Rachael Smith here on The Literate Nerds. Hello, welcome to The Literate Nerds today. I want to welcome my guest. I'm very, very happy to have Rachael Smith on the show today. We're going to talk about Rachael's upcoming projects and one specific project that she's been doing during the pandemic, Quarantine Comics, which has been really brilliant and has honestly, without a doubt, has certainly helped me on any number of one of the bleak days that we've all had of the last 365. And then I know that you have other projects that you got coming out very soon. But I want to ask one question real quick before we move on to that. I just want to know, how is Rufus doing?
Rufus is very well. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good. He has I don't know if you've seen my Instagram. He has a bow tie now, so that's been a very important Rufus update.
Yes, and he looked he looked as you would say, smashing.
He's very dapper gentleman these days.
Yes, he certainly is. Rufus is Rachel's cat, who is often featured in her comic strips, and I can't, unfortunately, where I live, I can't have any pets. So I live vicariously through my friends' pets, and it's always nice to see an update about Rufus. Okay. So now, what's the latest project? Now I know that Quarantine Comics is coming out in book form, or it's not available yet, right? It's going to be available sometime this summer, right?
It will be available. So it's available for pre-order right now from wherever you buy books. It will come out in the UK on the 13th of March, and in the US, I believe, on the 22nd of June. So yeah, it's not too long away. It's 8 weeks. If this goes out tomorrow, it'll be 8 weeks as you're listening to this.
That's fantastic, and that's actually that's the first day of summertime. And it's basically a daily journal, or an almost. How many cartoons did you do altogether?
So this book will collect the first 200.
The first 200.
Yeah, so it's quite a big whack of paper there.
Yeah. And it really does, man, it encapsulates the experience that we've been having during this pandemic. We have, a little bit of a different, life experience. Obviously, you're, over in the UK, and I'm on Long Island in New York, but we've both seen very similar, we've had very similar experiences. We're both in the service industry other than the comic book industry. So we've dealt with the crazy customers. We've dealt with the people who don't want to wear their masks online in the stores.
Yep.
We've, you're dealing with Brexit over there, and we were dealing with,
Yeah, you've had some political times, I feel.
Yeah, we've had some interesting ones, and like I said, not to get way off topic, but before we started the podcast, we were talking about the current governor of New York State and his political tribulations. But now you also you have another project that you were working on. I was looking on Twitter, and about an hour and a half ago you were working on a new book that is a collaboration.
Yes, I'm working on a book called The Queen's Favorite Witch, which is written by Benjamin Dixon and is being published by Paper Cuts. That's Paper Cuts, all one word with a Z at the end, or Z, forgive me. And so I'm just doing the drawings for that, but it's been that's been a joy to work on, actually. It's been very helpful to have that project running alongside Quarantine Comics, actually, because Quarantine Comics obviously is about, it's nonfiction. It's about my life right now, and it's about how I'm dealing with the lockdown and the pandemic and everything, and the kind of sometimes the humor I find in that, and sometimes the struggles I find in that. But it's also been really nice to have this kind of and Ben's story is set in sort of in the real world. It's in sort of medieval England with Queen Victoria and everything. Sorry, forgive me, Queen Elizabeth. But it's a fantasy novel, so it's about witches and there's magic in the world, and it's been really nice to just escape into that now and again and just be like, you know what, today I'm just going to do a few pages of Queen's Favorite Witch and live in this lovely world for a while. And yeah, the characters that Ben has written they're amazing and really lovely, and yeah, it's been nice for me to go into someone else's world for a little bit.
And it's very lighthearted. It's a book for younger audiences.
Yes,
right?
it will be a YA graphic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the stakes are pretty high. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is. No. Yeah, it gets a little hairy for Daisy Sparrow, who's the main character. But yes.
Yeah, and the character design is great. I absolutely,
thank you.
I absolutely adore it. It's just so cute. All right, so folks, you can obviously find Rachael on various social media. Well, if you look at the notes for the episode, I'll have links to where you can find Rachael, and we'll repeat that later on in the episode. We'll go over that before we close out the show. But I wanted to just move along. We do a little segment here called Near Mint to Poor Condition, wherein we discuss a positive piece of news from the world of nerddom and a negative piece of news from the world of nerddom. The positive piece of news is that we're going to get a Let the Right One In or television series from Showtime coming out. Now, before we were talking before, you're not familiar with the original film or the remake of this, Rachael? You haven't seen either of those?
I'm afraid I'm not. I've heard of it. I'm really rubbish at keeping up with film and television.
Listen, hey, that's one of the things that I want to do with this show is that I really want to try and be the opposite of a gatekeeper. I want to be an emissary and an ambassador of great, weird content to friends of mine. Last episode, I had the wonderful Casey Lansdale on, which is great because last week people had this, fantastic East Texas accent from Casey, and we have this lovely British accent from you today. And that way, it takes away from people having to listen to my terrible, my Long Island accent. It's just it's terrible. It's all I use.
Well, maybe we can see this as a nice opportunity because you could maybe just sell it to me as someone who knows nothing.
the original Swedish film and its remake are pretty close in plot. The premise is that a young boy who's quite isolated befriends a young girl who lives just moved into the apartment next door. And then there's just kind of this weirdness going on. Her dad seems like kind of a strange guy who doesn't want anybody having anything to do with her. And they strike up this friendship. And it turns out that she is a vampire. And she became a vampire when she was young. And this thrall of hers is not her father. It's, a guy who has come under her spell and has grown old as she has remained young. And the young boy that she becomes friends with gets bullied by the local school kids. And, what happens when you mess with a vampire's pal. It's really great. And the American remake is also actually very good. Chloe Grace Moretz starred in that. But this is going to be based on the novel, based on the film. It's kind of a tribute to all three, and retelling of it from Andrew Hideraker, who is responsible for Penny. He's the head writer for Penny Dreadful.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but there's an article from the Hollywood Reporter. If anybody wants to check it out, you can check it out, of course, on the notes of the page. It'll be highlighted. So, yeah, if I honestly, I mean, they're both really great. If you don't want to, deal with, subtitles, which, I mean, there's any number of people, I understand why not. I actually keep, the subtitles on television when I'm watching just regular TV nowadays. Because, the dichotomy in sound levels, I don't want my I'm watching Captain America's Civil War the other day, and I really don't want my neighbors to think that Hydra is invading my bedroom. And so, but the original Swedish version, I think is a little better than the American version, but they're both fantastic and both were well worth checking out, and definitely creepy little horror flicks. Big suggestions from me. Now, on to the poor condition. This is a difficult obituary for me today. We lost Yaphet Kotto, who was an actor. He passed on at 81. He was a New Yorker. He was born in Harlem. His father was an immigrant from Cameroon. He actually was raised both Catholic and Jewish, believe it or not, at his parents' request.
He was quite he was quite an important gentleman for you personally, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was. I mean, if you go online today, if you go on Twitter, you'll see any number of people talking about how he affected people personally in the roles that they saw him. The first time I ever saw him was as Parker in Alien, and I said it 2 episodes ago that Alien's the most important science fiction film ever made, in my opinion, because 2001 is the first time we see space that looks real, operating in space that looks real. And Star Wars is the first time we see space that looks like it's lived in. Alien is the first time we see working class people in space. And of course, the most important lesson is that the monster is always capitalism. That just sums it up for me. And just there's a moment in Alien when Yaphet Kotto as Parker comes over and to Ian Holm, who was playing Ash, and he leans over and he says to him, "You're sitting in my chair," and like Ash just looks at him. And there's just this look between these two guys, and Ash gets up and moves away, and Parker sits down. And there's this moment between the two of them. You know more about the relationship between those two guys in that one exchange than you do watching an entire character develop over a film sometimes. I mean, it's really incredible.
It's a good example of show, don't tell, I think.
Yeah. Really incredible. But I digress. He was a wonderful actor. And if you're unfamiliar with his work, I would say watch Live and Let Die. Roger Moore's James Bond, where he is the main bad guy. Watch Alien, of course, where he is Engineer Parker. And watch Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, where he plays FBI agent Alonzo Mosley. And not to give anything away, spoilers for that film, But there's a running joke in that film where Robert De Niro has stolen Yaphet Kotto's FBI ID and is going around and